All right, we're going to go over page 9 in business math. And I had a mom email me actually last year as her child was going through this and said that on page 18, particularly problem 9, they were coming up with a different answer than the score key. And so I have spent considerable time this morning going over these problems and trying to get my head back in the game and think about how we're doing these and why the answer is not the one she expected it to be, but actually the answer key is correct, okay? So let's talk about this problem on page 18 here. Don't you find this insurance stuff to be kind of confusing? Oh my goodness. I have a daughter who works as an office manager in an insurance office, and thankfully a lot of what they do is just done by computer. They don't have to do all these calculations, but it is helpful to do the manual calculations and understand kind of where they're coming up with these numbers and risk factors and things like that. But here at the top of page 118, it talks about a property being valued at $120,000, but it's only insured for $84,000. So the $84,000 is what we call the face value of the policy. And the face value, as it turns out, is the maximum amount that they will pay out. So sometimes what happens is the value of your property increases, or you go to rebuild after a fire and everything costs more to purchase it than you expected. They're not going to pay out. The insurance, everything is calculated in favor of the insurance company to make sure they don't lose too much money. So they're going to help you, but they're going to protect themselves at the same time. So the max they'll pay out is the face value. So we'll come back to that. All right, let's try to do these 3 problems together. This is the property value, the co-insurance percentage, and then the face value of the property. And so what it says we have to do is take the property value. So I'm going to plug in, got to do it correctly here, 330,000 times 0.9, okay? So I get 297,000. And what we have to ask ourselves is this amount less than or equal to the face amount? Okay? And it looks like the face amount is more than the 90%, and so we're good. What that means then is that it will pay the total loss. So if we take the face value divided by that, multiply it times the loss. Let's see, so let's do that. 320, 1, 2, 3, not times, divided by the 297, 1, 2, 3, okay, times 107,800. So that ends up being more. But the point is, they're not going to pay more than what the loss actually is. Okay? So let's look at this one here. 112,000 is the value. 500 times 0.7. So 78,000. $750 is the insurance required to meet. So the face value of the property is more than that insurance that's required to meet. So this is another case where we met the criteria, okay? So we don't have to do a decimal number, it's greater than 100, so it's just going to pay that full amount. So if this co-insurance amount, when we calculate it, is less than the face value, we just pay the full loss, okay? Here, the loss is 100,000. Property value times 0.7 is the 78,750, but the property is insured up to 109,000, so they will pay that full amount. All right, so let's look at this one. The property value is 100,000 and the loss is the full thing, 100,000, okay? The co-insurance is 80%, so 100,000 times 0.8, I didn't need my calculator for that, that is 80,000, okay? So in a case like this, we are going to take the face value of the property, divide by that 80,000, so 74,000 divided by 80,000, what do you get? You get 0.925, okay? And then if I took that times the total loss, I'm going to get 92,500. All right, so here's where the mom who emailed me was having a question. She said, this is the answer we're coming up with, and that's not what's in the score key. And I get the same answer too, 92,500. And I went back and looked at the formula, and yep, face value divided by the percent times the property value. We indeed do get that. But then when I multiply that times the loss, it's greater than the face value. So that's the catching point. If the face value is only 74,000, that's the maximum they're going to pay out, okay? So even though we calculated 92,500, they're not going to pay that much. They're going to say, okay, we'll pay you the max of your value of your policy, but not a penny more, all right? So the example they give at the top of the page, the loss was a lot less. And if this loss had been, let's say, 50,000, okay, then that's under the 74,000, so they would have taken this decimal number times that loss of 50,000, and then you would have had the amount they would have paid out, because they're not going to pay out the full amount since they're at this less than the 80%. A little confusing, but I think we figured out that that's what so even though you get this as your calculation, they're not going to pay that. At the max, they're going to pay the face value of the property. All right, wow, that got my brain having to work this morning on a kind of real life problem and figure out how it works. And if in the back of your mind, if you just always think, how would the insurance company interpret this to make sure they're protecting themselves? Sometimes that'll help lead you to the right answer. All right, good luck on the rest of this pace. There's some other challenging math problems. Let me know if there's anything else that you'd like for us to go over in this pace or as you move through 10, 11, 12. All right, thanks.